Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Aldo Rubino, soy el fundador del Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Buenos Aires, el MACBA, que se ha inaugurado este sábado pasado, día 1 de septiembre. Y antes que nada quiero dar las gracias a las autoridades de la Universidad Argentina de Empresa que vuelven a recibirnos en su casa, en este caso en ocasión de la apertura, y para presentarles a quien es el curador de la muestra inaugural, Joe Houston, que está sentado aquí a mi derecha, quien es asimismo el curador en jefe de la Hallmark Collection en Estados Unidos. Asimismo está también presente en esta ocasión Patterson, quien fuera por muchos años director del Whitney Museum en New York y director educativo en el Museum of Modern Art en New York también. Me acompañan también en esta ocasión nuestra directora, la licenciada María José Herrera, y Constanza Cerullo, quien es la curadora en jefa de la colección. Y algunos artistas varios que puedo ver las caras que están invitados, como Gabriela Bogar y Marcelo Boullosa. Quiero dar las gracias también nuevamente en cuanto a autoridades a Alejandro Capelletti por brindarnos la posibilidad de esta. Y realmente no quería dejar pasar la oportunidad, dado que tanto Joe como Patterson se retiran en el día de mañana a su país nuevamente, de aprovechar la ocasión que no es, digamos, usual de tener dos personas de su talla en nuestro país, para poder disfrutar un poco de su sapiencia acerca de la geometría y el color y del arte en general. Como fundador del museo, básicamente quería hacer un breve resumen. El museo fue un sueño que llevó varios años de gestación y 2 décadas por lo menos de coleccionismo para poder llegar a lo que soy, lo que podemos encontrar cerca de acá, en Avenida San Juan. Y realmente estamos todos felices, los del equipo que formamos el museo, de poder haber presentado la muestra de intercambio global, en la cual ustedes podrán encontrar una muestra muy internacional sobre la abstracción geométrica. El museo está desarrollado sobre 4 plantas de 300 metros cada una, en donde se desarrolla la muestra de 50 obras. Muy internacional porque son 50 artistas de distintas nacionalidades, cada uno importante en la rama de la geometría en la cual está inserto. Y bueno, quiero cederle la palabra a Joe Houston, que es el curador de la muestra, quien va a hablar un poco de la gestación de la muestra, de la importancia de los artistas que están dentro de la misma y cuál fue la línea curatorial que lo inspiró. Gracias.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to speak today, and thank you, Aldo, for allowing me to be a part of this important occasion of the opening of the new museum, and to have the really special treat of curating the inaugural exhibition. Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
La traducción, ¿ustedes escuchan la traducción? ¿Es simultánea? No. Alejandro.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Do you want me to do yours? I'll do that.
No, you speak in English and Pat translated to Spanish.
Yes, it'll be
Okay.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Hasta luego. Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Now's the time for a song, Aldo.
Yeah.
Now's the time for a song.
One of your artists. Maybe from Africa. You can sing one of your own. Did you see the new Woody Allen film?
Which one?
It's the one about Rome.
Yeah, I saw it.
Well, you
It's
can be
nice.
like, you can be
It's
like
nice.
a man singing the opera.
So
Wait a little bit.
will I be able to hear the translation?
I suppose that they have each one.
But how will I
No,
know when
they
to
don't.
start again?
That's
Should I
the
just
good
keep
point.
talking?
Yeah, but see, I don't think enough of them have the earphones. I don't know whether there is actually, they had enough earphones for everybody.
But even if they do, what I'm saying is, should I pause or do I just keep talking?
I think he's gonna, I think maybe they'll hear the voice.
If not, if it doesn't work, I will try to translate from here. If not, I ask you the other one comes here, translate from here.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be easy.
Start,
¿Ya?
and it'll be broadcast.
A ver, prueba de vuelta.
But do I pause?
Hello. Discúlpame.
Do I just keep speaking or do I pause for the translation?
Que espere un cachetito.
What did he say?
Wait a little bit.
You wait a little bit.
I wait a little bit.
Yeah, wait a little bit until he figures that out.
Okay. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah, relax.
Maybe we could, do you think the man in the white shirt knows? Because he was sort of directing things earlier.
Yes. I think that they had a problem to from here the disconnection to the box upstairs.
So he can't hear you again, you think?
I think
Something like that.
Yeah.
But maybe he should just come down here and sit on you.
Yeah, talk through the microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can tell
The translator
She's great. Yeah, I love that.
Yes. She retained almost
everything.
10 minutes.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
She's really maybe we should have her sit here.
Yeah. Hola, Leo. Connie. Otra que venga para acá. El traductor que venga para acá.
Some experience for me. I will review my script. Opportunity.
I once had this language of Japan, and they had scheduled it very poorly, so I had to leave right after the speech in order to get to the
Bueno,
airport.
venía a traducir un poco.
I would speak, and they would say 5 more minutes, 3 more minutes. Finally, because I was talking to them, carried away, they had to physically take me off the stage. It was hilarious. I got to do a read it.
We can put a movie in the meantime.
I know. I wish I had something, a little cartoon or something.
Yeah.
Like a cartoon.
A little geometric shapes which suddenly became dancing tango figures or something.
You know, that's an interesting area, though, the geometric abstract animations done in Hollywood in the 1930s. Oscar Fischinger was one of the great ones. Oscar Fischinger. And just like Kandinsky's in motion,
No.
early experiments in
Send me an
abstraction.
email with this, please.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people who did
Wow.
experiments. Hola. Hello, thank you for inviting me to speak here at the university. I'm very honored. And I also want to thank Aldo Rubino for allowing me to be part of this very important moment with the opening of the museum. I'm very humbled to have been selected to curate the inaugural exhibition of MACBA. And it's a beautiful museum, and if you haven't been yet, I hope you'll be there very soon. The Aldo Rubino collection is actually much larger and more diverse than the exhibition A Global Exchange will reveal. So I wanted to just stress that before I start, that it contains a lot of themes and a lot of media that aren't included in the exhibition. And I thought I'd take this opportunity just to show a few of the sculptural objects in the collection. These are not in the exhibition, but there's also a great collection of sculpture. I focused, however, on painting for my study of geometric abstraction. But here we have some of the historic works in the collection by artists you may know, Ennio Iami on the left, and Giulia Kosace on the right. And these are works by Ari Brizzi and Nop Ferro. Ferro, one of the younger artists in the collection. So what you're seeing is basically, in this exhibition, the tip of what is really a multifaceted iceberg. Well, I was given free rein to interpret the collection as I wished. The collection itself is already somewhat curated by the very careful acquisitions that have been made thus far. So I feel I had a luxury of curating a collection that already was curated in some way. And one of the overwhelming qualities of the collection that defines it is an interest in geometric abstraction and chronicling the history of that since World War II. So I chose that as a subject of the exhibition, A Global Exchange. Another thing that really sets this collection apart from any others that I've seen is that it is truly a transnational collection. It's not limited to artists from Latin America. And while we know that there's a great tradition of geometric abstraction here, with this exhibition, you'll see those artists in context with European and American artists as well. And I think that idea of a dialogue between artists and between artworks in the exhibition makes this really a unique experience and a unique way to study geometric abstraction. I'm the youngest of 8 children, and a few weeks ago I was speaking to one of my sisters about this trip I was going to make, and she said, told her I was curating an exhibition of geometric abstraction, and she said, oh, she's very proud of my accomplishment. And by the way, what is geometric abstraction exactly? And I think that's a fair question. Most people pursue more practical pursuits than the study of art. But I told her, you'll know it when you see it. And besides, I'll send you the catalog anyway. Really, the story of geometric abstraction this year is now 100 years old. And that was something that inspired me in putting together this show. The key developments for geometric abstraction occurred in 1913. And what you're seeing here is where it all began. These are 3 works conceived in 1913. On the far left is Piet Mondrian, Dutch artist, living in Paris at the time. In the center is Robert Delaunay, a French artist, lifelong French artist. And on the right is a work by Kazimir Malevich, a Russian painter. All these artists were somewhat aware of each other because they were pursuing some similar pursuits, but they didn't know exactly what each other was doing in their studio at that time. But this is really the birth of geometric abstraction. So it seems fortuitous to me that this exhibition would be on display at the centenary of this really important aesthetic. What I think is important to remember is that when this work appeared, it was truly a revolutionary kind of style. It was a really abrupt break with the past. What I'm showing you here is the street on which Mondrian's studio was in 1913. This photo is taken from 1913, so it's almost like a Google Earth snapshot of his street. And it really makes you think about putting yourself in the time and place of these radical achievements. What Mondrian did was a complete break with the 400 years of painting that had come before. Painting up until then had been a window onto a world, an illusionistic world, landscape, portraiture, etc. But this was quite a change. This was painting a pure invention, using geometry as a language, a new way to create painting. And I often wonder what it would be like for someone in that time and place encountering this work. It must have been a very radical, it must have seemed actually like a foreign language or something that had dropped from outer space. The same is true of the work of Robert Delaunay, who really we'll talk about later in terms of his use of color and perception. But these three artists laid the groundwork, the language, the grammar for abstraction to come. And it's important just to reference these before we begin to talk about the artists of the past 6 decades. This is Kazimir Malevich's work. Now, the work is still very much influencing artists today. The relationship between, for instance, minimalism. This is a work by Tony Smith, a minimalist artist of the 1960s. The relationship is very clear here. And you'll see quite a strong relationship between Mondrian and even the youngest artist in our exhibition, Gabrielle Bohr, who is here today, I believe, by the way.
Yes.
And we'll talk about her again. The exhibition is divided into 4 themes. This could have been divided in a lot of different ways. I chose to look at some of the predominant themes that artists have been addressing over and over again in the past 60 years. The first one is order and instability. And we begin here with really the only picture that predates 1950, which is the start of our show. This is a 1947 work by Juan Millet, a Latin American artist who traveled to Europe in the late 1940s and was obviously very much influenced by what Mondrian had to say in his work. He's one of many artists from Latin America, Uruguay, Argentina, Venezuela, who in the late 1940s went to Europe and also to North America and began a cross-pollination of ideas between artists. And geometric abstraction became a way for artists to communicate over distance and time. Here Juan Millet is transplanting some of the ideas of Mondrian's purity, his essentialism. And for Mondrian, this was very much tied to an idea of a new social order. And I think in some way, this became very popular in Latin America because it was seen as a progressive aesthetic as well, with some social implications. An optimistic aesthetic. And this is a later work of Juan Millet from the 1950s, taking those ideas a little further. We've divided the exhibition into 4 floors of the museum, so each floor is devoted to each one of these 4 themes. But what's you'll see running throughout this work is a very highly structured sense of composition, often with horizontals and verticals, almost like architecture, post and lintel structures. It's very orderly, it's very secure, it's very firm, it's something you can trust. This is a work by an American artist from the 1960s, actually, Frederick Hammersley. And he, too, is dealing with issues of order and stability. So you'll notice a lot of symmetry in the art of this period as well. Now, one of the artists who sort of throws a wrench into the works of this idea of order and stability is Victor Vasarely, a Hungarian-born artist who, in Paris, spent most of his career. And he begins with a very orderly idea of pattern, but then messes with it. So he creates disruptions within that pattern that suggest other forms and also make us sort of make the image unstable. It's hard to find the surface. Does the white advance or does the white recede? Now, he was very much interested in technology and in particular also ideas of perceptual psychology, which was a new science in the 1950s when he began making this work. So he became a leader of really a whole generation of artists who began to consider perception as a primary aspect of their painting. This is a work by German artist Günter Frutrunk, and this is a work of an American artist, Julian Stanchek. Now, when you see these pictures in person, and really, you can't really appreciate the works unless you do experience these. The more you look at a piece like this, it seems to move. It seems to become animated. And although it's primarily black and white with just a little blue border, from the black and white, you'll see a number of colors begin to come forth. Julian Stanchik, like Vasarely, was very interested in ideas in perceptual psychology and how vision is a process not just of the eyes, but also of the mind. And by creating some perplexing situations, it says something maybe about the 1960s and the instability of the culture in America at the time. Another important concern that you'll see in this first aspect of the exhibition is the use of new materials. And this, just like the idea of an orderly composition, conveys ideas about the future. So using plastics, using metals to create really interesting visual experiences, reflective surfaces. As you pass by these works, they change in the light. This use of new materials was also somehow embedded within that is a notion of progress and a promise that technology could somehow equal a better future. This is Matilda Perez, an artist who uses all kinds of reflective materials and plastics. And the closer you get to these pieces, the more surprises you'll discover. So it really makes us have to look hard and have to move around the work. And that was part of the point, that art is a participatory experience, not just a spectator sport. So this is a wonderful piece by Luis Tomasello and an Italian artist, D'Adamino, who again are using structure and order, but creating disruptions with layering different patterns. And this is Rogelio Policello, an artist who you may be familiar with, who has a really spectacular painting in the exhibition. Another one of the dominant themes in the